Hey everybody, a very impromptu live on, thank you for telling me Instagram that I've gone live, just a very impromptu live on something that I haven't spoken about before, something that most people wouldn't know, even people in my personal life. Many people don't know about this because I have been very conscious about giving it life, and because I'm so conscious about the fact that I decide what this means, I don't talk about it unless it's very consciously and very specifically. And I want to share it with you today because it feels like it's come full circle, and it feels like a really powerful example that I can share with you of how important it is that when something happens in your life, when you're given information, or when you're going through something, that you remember that you decide what it means, and that you don't let other people, you don't give that power to somebody else for them to decide what something means in your life or what something means to you. And so it's a powerful example of just how much we do set the tone and of becoming unbound. And yeah, if you've been around here for a while, you'll have heard me many times say, it's that the mantra, I decide what this means, will free you from anything. So, in early 2007, what had happened in the lead up to that was that I regularly would go, well, when I say regularly for someone that didn't have glasses, would go to optometrists and say, look, I'm having issues with my sight. They would then do an eye exam. They would prescribe glasses. I would then come and pick them up a week later or whatever. I would put them on to read, which is what we kind of figured I needed them for. And they didn't feel like they were the right prescription. And this happened about 3 times. This had really already been happening for probably about 10 years. And I just kept sort of walking away from these situations thinking, bloody, why can I not find the right optometrist? What is it with me and these optometrists who just cannot get this prescription right? So, and each time in between, I'd leave it for a few years, and then I'd think, I really need glasses. So, I had found a new optometrist, and by this stage, what was also happening, when I saw this lady, I said to her, in the mornings, when you get up in the morning and your sight is a bit blurry, like it's quite normal that when you first wake up, you kind of have a bit of a blurry vision. You kind of rub your eyes a little bit and it becomes clearer. Mine was not becoming clearer. That morning blurriness was kind of staying for about an hour. So when I said this to this optometrist, she said, I think you might have a corneal condition and I want to send you to a corneal specialist to have it confirmed. Okay, great. So it's early 2007. I don't know what I was in 2007, mid-30s. And I walk into this corneal specialist thinking, God, I hope I don't need glasses like full time. I hope I don't need to wear glasses all the time. And he does this exam and he says, okay, I can confirm that you have this condition called Fuchs, which is Fuchs, which is the name of the person who discovered it. You have this condition called Fuchs, which means that the endothelial cells in your cornea don't clear the fluid properly. And so you have a fluid buildup. And this is why my eyesight was kind of blurry. This is why my vision, this is why these incompetent optometrists, or so I thought, weren't giving me the right prescription, because my eyesight could change a lot from 1 minute to another. So depending on what it was like when they did the exam, I could put the glasses on an hour later and they'd be the wrong ones. So he gives me this news, this guy, and he says, you have this corneal condition called Fuchs. I've never seen it in someone as young as you. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no treatment, and you're going to need a corneal transplant in both eyes. And I was in shock, obviously, and a very different person at that time. I mean, I was still nursing. And so I said to him, okay, what do you think? I did the usual stuff that you do when a medical person gives you information, right? I wanted to know what, when, how, what, So he said, look, you are not going to last longer than about 10 years before you will need corneal transplants in both eyes. And he said, look, I want to see you yearly and see you later. Oh, and then he turned around to me and he said, if you haven't had children, have them now. Right. So I left in shock. I walked into the building thinking, God, I hope I don't have to wear glasses every day for the rest of my life. And literally less than an hour later, I walked out of that building thinking, God, I wish all I had to do was wear glasses for the rest of my life, right? I drove home in absolute shock, Googled the condition, found out all sorts of things that were pretty worrying, like the fact that you can just go blind like that. Read horror stories about corneal transplants and rejections and all sorts of things. And the fears that came up for me were like, oh my God, I love to drive. I would really miss if I could not drive a car. And I read all the time. So I was like, oh my God, imagine if I couldn't read. Imagine if I didn't have the vision to read or to drive a car. They were kind of like the big things of like, imagine what would happen to my independence if I couldn't drive. So that was early 2007. And it got progressively worse. Like it got worse quickly. And by the time I saw him again at my yearly checkup in 2008, he said, it's gotten a lot worse. And I thought, well, no shit, Sherlock. I'm the one that's actually looking out of my eyes. Like I probably don't need you to tell me. You're already telling me there's nothing you can do. You're kind of not like great to see because your bedside manner is atrocious. And you're saying it's a lot worse. Like I already know this information. So I didn't go back after that. So that was in 2008. And at the time, like corneal transplant, I was like, right, I'm determined that I will not need a corneal transplant. I'm determined. And I just kind of rejected the whole idea. And I also didn't see anybody about it. And, occasionally friends and family, like the few people that did know, because there's a lot of people that don't know this, would say, you really should go. And I would say, well, what for? Like, what is the point of going? So over the years, it got worse for sure. And it got worse quite quickly. So what it was like was that it would often be like as though I was underwater, and it just comes and then it goes. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I really started shifting in my perspective of just rejecting this whole concept to, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? And I started to have, by this stage, I had started studying kinesiology. I started to have a lot of sessions about it. I started to really shift in my perspective about this condition. So as I said before, it's called Fuchs, F-U-C-H syndrome. And I decided that what Fuchs was fucked up childhood syndrome. And yeah, I'd had that. I had a fucked up childhood, so it made sense that I would have this syndrome. But I no longer had a fucked up childhood. I wasn't living in that anymore, so the syndrome could go. And this is the kind of stuff I started affirming, and I really started to kind of get into my power about it, instead of just being frightened, and instead of just sort of rejecting it, and instead of kind of like worst case scenario, which the medical people mostly give you. I just really started shifting in perspective. It was there, and I was, I could feel it. I was experiencing it, and it had continued to get worse. But I wasn't kind of living in the worst case scenario of it. And I was still at that point kind of like, well, I'm not going to need a corneal transplant. So fast forward then to maybe about 5 years ago, I thought, do you know what? I kind of want to have, because it had gotten quite a bit worse, I kind of just wanted to check in with somebody and have a conversation about it. So I Googled corneal specialists and I found a lady that I liked the look of, right? I looked a whole heap of them up and I found one that I really liked the look of, and her name's Jacqueline. And I made an appointment to go and see her. So this is 2 important things. You decide what something means. And the second thing is always find your own specialists. What can happen a lot of the time when you are unwell or, once you're in that system, you can feel a real victim to it and really at the mercy of it. And it's really important that you can find your own specialists. Don't go and see necessarily who your GP recommends, because what often happens is they were mates during uni, they recommend each other because they still know each other, or they just recommend them because someone went and had an okay experience. They don't necessarily know them. They certainly have never been their patient, so they don't know what your experience is going to be. So I go and see Jacqueline, and at this point, it's well past the 10 years. Is it well past the 10 years? Yeah, it's past the 10 years, right? And so I tell her this experience that I had, and she goes, oh, wow. She said, well, good news, corneal transplants are not what they once were. They're much better. They're now partial thickness instead of full thickness. You recover a lot quicker. And they're much more successful. She said, but you definitely wouldn't even want to think about it until your life is really impacted. So I had this really great experience with this lovely human who had a human interaction with me, who respected the fact that I had been a nurse, who respected the fact that I was now a kinesiologist, and was asking me all these questions about, my work and my life and all these things. And then I saw her again 2 years later, where I had become really, really unwell in the meantime with something different. And I'd been on Chinese herbs for about a year at this point. And I noticed that my eyes were getting better. I noticed that my vision was actually getting better. So when I saw her and I said, it's improving. I'm actually noticing that it's improving. Not only did she was interested in that. She didn't kind of roll her eyes or whatever. She was like, oh, brilliant. Well, certainly overall health is going to impact it. Certainly lifestyle is going to impact it. All these things, you're probably taking better care of yourself. You're less stressed, all this sort of stuff. And so then we left it up until I saw her for the 3rd time a couple of weeks ago. And this is why I want to share this with you. So when I went in, she said, how's it going? And I said, look, really good. It's continuing to be better. She said, brilliant, great. She said, you know what? I don't think you need to see me at this point in time. I think you should just come back and see me if you need to. And then this is the conversation we had. I said to her, I just want to let you know that when I walked out of the first specialist's appointment, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to ever have to have a corneal transplant. And when I walked out of the first appointment that I had with you, I actually walked out thinking, wow, isn't it brilliant that a corneal transplant exists and that it's an option? And then we started talking. And she said, what do you think has been the biggest shift for you? And I said that I decide what it means, and that I don't let anybody tell me anymore what the progression of something is, or what a diagnosis means, or what something means for me. I said, it's really important that doctors realize that the power that they have when they say to someone, this is what this means. I said, and I know that patients want you to tell them. I mean, 99% of patients will sit in front of a doctor and they will say, what does this mean? And they want you to tell them everything, how long, what's it going to look like? How's it going to progress? They want all of this because they will happily give you their power. I said, but really, ideally, you would say you don't know what it means for them. And even if you know what it has meant for other people in the past, you don't know what it means for this person. And she said, wow, that is so amazing. She said, I'm really conscious when I give people news that is something like, look, at this point in time, there is no treatment for this condition at this point in time. She said, I'm really aware of that. She said, and I'm really going to be conscious now to use that. She said, can I literally just use what you just said to me? And I said, absolutely. So we had this conversation where she said, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm going to be really conscious of saying to people, this is what, this is what we've found, but we don't know what this means for you. And it was just like, I just walked out of there feeling really positive. Like I really like this lady anyway, but just a positive experience, and so optimistic. And I thought it's such an important and powerful example of you decide what something means. It's like it had come full circle. And it's so interesting that it has continued to improve because it's like, that's the other thing, when you set the tone, it's like I've become unbound from that particular expression. We know physical expressions, of course, are always, they're an energetic thing, they're a frequency thing, and it's our body talking to us. They are connected to, certain traumas and different things in our lives. And it's almost like this one is just coming to completion. Will I ever need to have any kind of treatment? I don't know. But she was like, just come back if you need to. It's like, so I just wanted to share that with you. If you've come in late, I'm not going to repeat it. You can go back to the start. And I just want I want there to be a take-home message for you, for whatever you're going through, whether it is something physical, whether it's, something health related, whether it's whatever it is. Just be really mindful that someone else can't tell you what that means in your life. They don't give them that power. So she actually she sent a letter to me of a copy of that she sent to my optometrist, and in it she wrote, Sabina has a really good understanding of the condition, what we expect to occur naturally, and what the treatment options are. She also has excellent insight into the fact that we do not know exactly what that diagnosis or usual natural history means for her specifically. And I just felt like I'm so glad I had that interaction with that doctor, because it means that she will approach people differently. Do you see how important it is how much you set the tone? This is an example of I decide what this means, for sure. And how, I decide what corneal transplant means. I decide what the whole condition means. And you can see why I've been conscious about not sharing it with people, because I haven't wanted to give it life. I haven't wanted to put it into other people's hands where they can then start to kind of decide what it means. It's almost like I'm sharing that power. I'm happy to do that now because I feel like I have transformed it enough that it's actually, I can share it with you as like a teaching opportunity, like a lesson shared, and then apply it to your life. You're welcome, Amelia. Yeah, I think a lot of us need to hear this, and it's not just health stuff. It's anything that's going on with the current stuff. It's anything that's going on with money. It's anything that's going on with any of it, health, education, any of it. I decide what this means. If you can do that, okay. I don't know what's happening with okay. Yeah, if you can remember that I decide what this means. And I talked about this in this week's book club video. And I've just recorded, I'm recording a few ahead because I'm going away, and I've just recorded one too where I really encourage you, no matter what you're watching, the doom and gloom about, you know, the dollar, any of it, you know, what's going to happen, climate, lockdowns, further this, 15-minute cities, all the stuff. If you just look at it, and when someone else is busy trying to tell you what it means, you can just say, no, I decide what this means, right? And with your health is such a powerful, important, this is how you will reclaim your health. This is how you become unbound, because that system is something powerful that we do need to become unbound from. Because what we've done is we've handed all of our power over to people outside of us that may well have, you know, educations that you don't have, that may well have degrees and whatever, but what they don't know anything about is you. They don't know anything about your ability, they don't know anything about your life, they don't know anything about your mindset, your understanding, they don't know anything about your power. That's where you come in. And it's so important that you, and so what I like about this example that I'm sharing is it almost felt like a jump in timeline too, because the start, you know, starting with kind of like the old school crappy doctor who was just had no bedside manner and was just, you know, an awful experience to deal with, you know, especially being like in my 30s and just being told about this condition. And then, you know, the younger, the kind of the more human doctor, which really gave me a lot of hope about where we are heading. And although I often bag, I mean, you know, if you've been here, like as a nurse, having been inside the system, I will bag the medical system till the cows come home. And I'll say, oh, it just needs to completely, like it's so toxic, it just needs to completely disintegrate and we need a whole new system. She gave me a lot of hope. She gave me a lot of hope of like what kind of healthcare in the world that we're now creating can look like and be like. It's just brilliant. Hi, Jai. So true what you're saying. I watched a documentary on a lady that had cancer disappear just from imagining Uma Thurman, not Thurman, Thurman, slicing up her cancer with swords. We have been made to forget our power. You can see that. This is what we need to become unbound from. If you watch the you know, I've done this book club, I've done these videos with the intention to help you become unbound from the matrix. And that is the reason why. Because within the matrix, we have forgotten our power. We've forgotten who we are. We're living in this amnesia. And we've forgotten our healing capabilities. That is a big one. I have a fever now. You mean I decide what this fever means? Well, the fever will mean something. Obviously, every physical symptom does mean something, but also you will always decide what being unwell means. You'll either make it worst case scenario. You'll either go, that's not just you, Haruka, that's all of us, right? Okay, so we have a fever. We can either go, oh, this means I'm really unwell. This means I could have, and you could attach a name to it. You can attach a label to it. Or you could just say, this means my body needs to rest and it's currently processing something. And it means, really, what a fever means is that your immune system's working really well. Your immune system's doing what it's designed to do. It's raising the temperature of your body to an optimal environment for your immune system to transmute whatever is in your body that your body wants to move out. So you're detoxing through the sweating, the temperature's rising because the things that can make you unwell don't do well at higher temperatures. So what does it mean? It means my immune system is working beautifully. My body's doing what I needed to do. Let me rest while it does that. That's how you decide what it means. Or you can go into a swirl and you can go, oh my God, I'm sick. Oh my God, what do I have? Oh my God, am I contagious? Oh my God, are other people going to get sick around me? You know, you can give it labels and names and all sorts of things, and you can look at it like it's a fault. like it's something that needs to be suppressed. So you could take Panadol, you know, so they're the two different ways you can look at anything. And if you've been around here sort of from 2019 when I started to become unwell, you'll remember that after a short little period of seeing a couple of people, I decided I don't want a label for this. I don't want your label, because your label is immediately going to come with a whole heap of baggage in a way, really. It's going to immediately come with you deciding, you telling me, you're going to start programming me. The minute you give me a label, you're going to program me. And a fever is such a good example of how far we have come from our own innate understanding about the body. You know, even within medicine, like how much it changed in those 19 years that I was in it, where a fever was a good thing. A fever meant your body's doing what it's meant to do, to now suddenly suppress it always. How did we get that far from ourselves? Because we handed over to somebody else who makes money from our symptoms. We gave them the power to decide what it means, and we need to reclaim that. Yeah, what was the documentary called? Do you remember, Jai? A lot of people are questioning the health system now, have no confidence in it and trying other ways. Brilliant. I love that. So the important thing about not having confidence in the health system, like we need to get there. We need to get there, because the health system will kill us for sure. It will kill any kind of, it kills life. I mean, I don't know, I'm sounding a bit like, the first part you might have gone, oh, this is a nice positive message, and now I'm like, the health system will kill life. The health system is as inverted as every other system within the matrix. It's inverted. It's not about life and thriving. It's about suppressing, symptom control, consumer, lifelong customer, and it's about not being dead. The current healthcare system is about not being dead, which is really, really different to being alive. Like they're not the same thing. So yes, we want to have no confidence in it, but then what's happening to a lot of people is they're kind of like swirling and they're running around in this fear going, hang on, if you can't tell me what this means, I better find a natural therapy practitioner and they'll tell me what this means. And so I can see a lot of the power that people would once give doctors being transferred over to naturopaths, and I don't think that's the answer. Or being transferred over to chiros, or being transferred to whoever, right? Kinesio, or whoever. I don't think that's the answer. What you want to do is to reclaim that power and to go, okay. So no one's saying don't ever go to somebody else and say, so, hey, this is what's going on with me. What's your take? It's not about not going to people who have more understanding or knowledge about, you know, the body or biology than you. But remember that their understanding is about the body. Their understanding is not about your body, right? So this corneal guy, he was not lying. He would have been saying his experience and whatever. But how many people went to him and did need corneal transplants within 10 years because that's what he told them, right? So how many of that was a self-fulfilling prophecy? So when you want to be questioning the health system, and then you want to get confidence in yourself to go, I can have an appointment with a doctor and I can walk out and go, they're not for me. You want to start looking at doctors in the same way that you would look at, I don't know, like tradies coming to your house to do work. Like you go, no, you're not the person for me, right? You're not going to just have whoever build your house. You're going to find the right builder. And when they're not, you get a different one. And you need to start, and again, when I say you, I just mean all of us. We need to start looking for the right people. And like, as I said, if you've come in late, go back to the start. I'm not going to repeat what I've just said, but like, I'm not going to repeat the story I shared. But the crux of it is, my experience with the second doctor was worlds apart from the first doctor, but I was worlds apart from the first doctor. So what if I did skip a timeline? What if initially I couldn't have seen her because I do set the tone, and because as a frequency we weren't a match? And, you know, at the time I was still in the system. I was a completely different person when I was nursing. Not completely, because I always had an attitude problem, and that has always served me well. And I never had a great respect. I never respected doctors more than anybody else in the system, right? I had a respect for my co-workers, but that was across the board. I respected them as co-workers. I never looked at doctors as being anywhere above me or below me. They're just folks at work like the cleaners, right? So that has always served me well. However, the power I was still willing to give that man was too much, because I walked out of there swirling and frightened and in shock. And they're all, like, you need to process those feelings for sure. But as soon as you can, shift and switch into, no, I decide what this means. And the medical system, the health system will only actually help us once we can be in it, and we can be the greatest guide, our own guide. We can be the one that the doctors will actually look at and say. So I had a friend in hospital recently, like about a week ago, and she messaged me to say, you know, I'm in hospital, and like I won't say what it was because I think she posted about it and I don't want you to know kind of who it was. But what I said to her after I gave her a bit of like sort of medical advice, I said, I know you're in emergency in a gown with your ass hanging out, but I just want to remind you that you're the one in charge. I just want to remind you of your power, because I know right now, sitting in your gown on the little trolley in emergency with all the important people swirling around you, you can forget your power and you can start to feel like a little kid. And I just want to remind you, because she said, I'm waiting for them to tell me if I can go home. And I said, I just want to remind you that you're the one who's going to decide that. So that would be my reminder to all of you. Yes, remove the doom and gloom that they're putting out there, like you remove a filter from your photo. Yes. Choose to see it how you want. Exactly. They know that we can do this too, but they hide it. Absolutely they know. Absolutely they know. And this is what becoming unbound means. And this is what like dropping the veil of the matrix means. Once those veils drop, once you remember who you are, you know, this week in the book club video, I talked about the fact that we are the blueprint. This world that we're waiting on, we are the actual blueprint. So of course, if you've got a group of people and they're working for you and they don't even know, they're kind of giving you their energy, they're giving you their power, which you're harnessing. Of course, you don't want them to remember their power. You know, if you're in an abusive relationship, your abuser does not want you to remember your power. They will lie to you. They will tell you all sorts of things. They'll say, you know, nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to help you. You'll be on your own. They want you to think that. So yes. And the medical system is really similar. Individual people in the medical system are good people for sure. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there isn't humans in there and individual people in there that work really hard and that want to make a difference, and they're in there with good intention. What I'm saying is the whole system is so toxic and so inverted and so run for profit and so just, well, you know, the inversion of it's so not about health that they can't help you. They can't do anything. Their hands are actually tied. They couldn't, and this is where I say that system needs to die. It really does. And we need a new one. Oh yeah, the name of I was given a label once of borderline personality disorder. I know now that was a crock. Oh my God, don't get me started on psych diagnoses. They are just fucking... So here's why you want a diagnosis. Your ego loves labels. It loves a label. It loves a box. It loves a label. It loves black and white. And it has to know, what does this mean? So I understand that doctors and psychiatrists and all sorts of people have been backed into this corner many decades ago. Backed into a corner, partly by the patient. What does this mean, doctor? Given that you are God, doctor, what does this mean, doctor? Right? The doctor on high. And also by the pharmaceutical companies that were coming around the other end, going, here are the drugs. They need the diagnosis for them to need this drug. And so the doctor was kind of, the individual doctor was kind of backed into the corner. And the whole thing of anxiety being a psych issue, depression being a psych issue, all of this fucking personality disorder, bullshit, wank, narcissism, empaths, all of the labels are all just bullshit. That are just the ego going... The latest thing with everybody having ADHD, women having ADHD. Mel Robbins says, I've got ADHD, which I would just about bet my left kidney on the fact she got paid to say that. I would. There's no doubt in my mind with the following that she has and the platform that she has, her coming out and going up. Do you know why we've all got ADHD? Because we're on fucking social media all the time. We're scrolling. We've got 28,000 different things coming at us. We're being zapped by our Wi-Fi. We're being fried overnight by the phone next to our head. We've got shit pinging at us from every single direction. The shit in our food, in our water, in the skies, all of it. This is why we have difficulty staying attentive to something. This is why we have difficulty concentrating. It's on purpose. It's basically to dumb us down. It's so that we can't sit for long enough to have a thought. We have to take responsibility for that. If you want to reclaim your attention, have big long breaks off social media. Go outside and don't take your phone. Go and walk in nature without music blaring, playing in your head constantly. Sit and have a conversation in nature. Pick up a pen and start writing in a journal. Do some art. Just sit and breathe. Read a book. Most people cannot read a book anymore. Most people will say to me, I'd love to read your book, Sabina. Is it on audio? Why do you need it on audio? You need it on audio so you can listen to it while you do something else. Because you cannot just do one thing. Because you can't sit down. You've got ants in your pants, and it is our lifestyle that has done that. And then they're going to give it a label and go, it's ADHD. All these adults with ADHD. You haven't got ADHD. You need to get off social media more often. You need to make a concerted effort to concentrate, to not let your brain freak out when it sits with something for more than a minute. Have a look at what you're willing to read on social media. I can guarantee you, if I do a post that's too long, no one's going to read it. They don't give a shit. I can also let you know, if I do a snazzy meme, this is something interesting that I found out recently. I shared a picture, and it was sort of a sarcastic comment that you didn't pick up was sarcastic on the meme unless you read what was below it. And many people commented without having read what I wrote. And then other people would say, did you read what you wrote? No, they didn't read. They didn't. They're not interested in reading. They scrolled and had a reaction. Scroll, reaction, scroll, reaction, react, 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 react. You are in a constant triggered reaction so that you don't have a deeper thought, so that you can't sit with something complex, so that your creative side is gone, so that you don't have your own connection with Source, with God, with your higher, wiser self, so you don't get your own answers, so you go to the outside all the time. Because I haven't got time. I just need it. You see it all the time when people want complex things in a sentence. How do I do that? You can share the most complex thing. Well, how do I do that? We've done it ourselves. We are still choosing to do it to ourselves. And now they have found a whole new group that they can medicate. And a whole new group that are willing to give their power away and go, well, I've got ADHD, there's nothing I can do about it. I've got borderline personality disorder. What if you don't have any of those things? What if you don't have any of those things? What if you just have a label? Well, I have a label for that. I have a label for that. Well, what if you take the label away? And what if you're just a human in its full experience and expression of things? And what if anxiety and depression are two major things that tell us a lot about what we're ignoring and how we're ignoring our health and how we're ignoring our well-being? You know, nowadays you can have somebody pass away and you can go to the doctor 3 weeks later and say, I'm really sad. And they'll say you've got depression and put you on antidepressants. This is how insane it has become. Kids have basketball now, can't wait to listen to later. Okay. Only use the health system if you are bleeding or dying. Yeah, basically that's my take on it. Now, I would only go to it in an acute. What's important is that no matter who you use, that you always keep the trust in you, and if it feels off, you can see why it's been so important to make kids go against themselves from the minute they this is another big part of becoming unbound. School helps us to go against ourselves. And parents are already preparing for school. I don't want to do that, Mum. Well, you're going to have to do it when you're in school. I don't want to eat now. Well, you're going to have to eat at lunchtime when you're in school. I don't want to put shoes on. Well, you're going to have to put shoes on when you're in school. And when you're in school and you say, I don't want to do it, then they'll say, well, you're going to have to do it when you're at work. Well, you're going to have to do it when you have your own kids. Well, you're going to have to do it when you're a grown-up. And it's a whole life of have-tos. And what you lose in a life of have-tos is your own checking in with what you actually want to do. What is actually right for you? What feels right for me? You can't be different because we all have to be uniform. Well, what box do you fit in? What box do you know? I need to know what box you fit in. So you can't be over there having your own experience of that because I need to know where to put you, right? And that's doctors. I need to know where to put you. And if I can't find somewhere to put you, I'll put you in a psych category. I'll either say you're a hypochondriac, you're completely making it up, it's psychosomatic, and as though psychosomatic was a dirty word. Psychosomatic, meaning psycho, meaning psychological, somatic, meaning, physical expression, a symptom, expression. How? That is not a dirty word. That just shows us the power of how the mind and the body are always connected. You cannot separate one out from the other. And that is why modern medicine does not work, because it tries to separate one out from the other. Modern psychiatry, or psychiatry full stop, is not ever going to be beneficial for anybody, because you cannot treat the mind separately from the body. You can't have somebody doing the body treating, and then the worst thing that happened in medicine was when they split it off into all specialties. And so instead of being looked at as a whole human, and instead of somebody really looking at, okay, well, this expression of your symptom over here is really about this and this and this, and all the different aspects of you that are actually all being coming out. They don't look for what's beneath that. They're just looking, the eye guy's looking at the eyes, and the kidney guy's looking at the kidneys, and the, heart guy's looking at the heart, and no one's looking at the whole thing. And I think until you have somebody looking at the whole thing, or until you have a team get together and go, okay, how is this impacting the different aspects of this person? Then you're not going to have decent healthcare. 100% of them was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Absolutely. And you don't want to reject it, because when I was first given that diagnosis and told about the transplant, I rejected it outright. And that's not me in my power either. So the work started at that point in time. I needed to reject it first, I think, and that's just where I was at in my own kind of development and growth. And it was about getting to the part where I could look at it and go, what is this about? Why am I experiencing this? What is it here to teach me? What is it here to tell me? And how can I be in my power? I often talk about ego power and real power being two different things. Ego power is power over, right? So then, of course, the minute you're told you have something, or the minute your body expresses something, you feel like you should have power over it. Well, I should be able to beat this into submission. I should be able to get rid of this, right? Whereas real power is power within. So can I have this issue with my eyes and be in my power at the same time? And when those two things meet, we need to get to the realization that physical dis-ease, expressions of dis-ease, and physical symptoms are not a fault. They are not the body showing you that it has faults. They are a physical expression of your humanness, of what you're going through at the time. There is an emotional element to every disease. There's most usually a physical element because we've ignored the emotional, but at the starting point, there is always the psychological. It starts in the mind and it moves from there. And it's just an expression. It's just something expressing itself through you. And if you can stay in your power within that, then it can come full circle without you having lost your shit. It's kind of like this. So many people are fine and then go to the doctor and get told they have stage 4 cancer. All of a sudden they get sick and die. Yeah. A lot of people are waiting for disclosure at this point in time, and I've spoken a lot about the fact that disclosure has always been here. Nobody's ever hidden anything that they've done. It's always been in plain sight. I've talked about the fact that if you're waiting around, you don't need disclosure because you already know what you know. Most people, when they want disclosure, what they're really saying is, I want my friends and family who can't see what's going on to have disclosure, but the fact is they need to be ready to see it. Otherwise, you could literally have a look at the last 3 years. You can literally play something out that is clearly like nonsensical and farcical, and they just won't see it. But if there's an aspect of me that wants disclosure, it's like, can we just have the whole cancer thing fall apart? Can we just start acknowledging that chemo is a complete farce? That it's not just a farce. I mean, a farce is like something that's made up, or something that's. Chemo is just much more sinister than that. Chemo is just one of the most horrendous things that we see. And there is a part of me that just goes, can we all just move beyond chemo? Can we all just go, oh my God, it is the chemo that's killing people. And also, when you get told you have cancer, you're immediately going to go into programming. And even if you think, well, I'm fairly awake and aware and whatever, and I'll decide what this means, there's a lot of programming that's in your cells. And even if you can get past it, your family and friends will lose their shit for their own programming. Exactly, Jai. Do people just die from stage 4 cancer one day suddenly and then everyone finds out they had cancer? No, they don't. People get diagnosed and then they die. Yep. It's so hard finding a doctor. Yeah. Yep. Best not to find one, I say. Hey, Verena. I can't stand labels. I can't stand labels either. They are the realm of the ego. And the only reason the ego needs labels is because it's too simple to deal in the world beyond it. The ego is just the least evolved part of each one of our minds, and it just needs everything very simply structured, very black and white. The reason it needs that, and the reason why the ego needs a label, is because it needs to know in any situation, okay, so who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy here, who's the bad guy here? This is why if I made an account tomorrow and I put narcissist in the name of the account, and I just started posting about like narcissists are bad and you're good, and I see you, and how to get over abuse from your narcissist, and your mum's a narcissist and your ex is a narcissist and your blah blah blah, and the first doctor I saw was a narcissist, and I think I would probably have thousands of followers within a week, because that shit sells, and because that shit markets at your ego. And your ego goes, yeah, I'm not enough. I know, like, these people, like, who all of these narcissists, but they're never the narcissist, right? There's no narcissistic tendencies there. It's just in the other people. And your ego wants a good guy and a bad guy. And your ego will always seek out you being the good guy and someone else being the bad guy. And if you can attach a label to that, all the better. Because what it means is that it's clear cut. It's clear cut. You see, my mother's a narcissist, and people go, oh, I'm sorry. Wow, that's really hard. Are you okay? Literally, you would not even have to say anything else. You could go, my ex is a narcissist. I could start a group called My Ex is a Narcissist and make it open for women to join. Maybe a few more men too now, but women, oh my God. I'd probably have 15 million in there after a month. And then, I could market some courses to them, a recovery from your narcissist, relationships beyond your narcissist, and all of this stuff. And all it really is me going, I see you and I know you're the good guy. I know you're the victim. And the ego loves being the victim. The ego also loves being the victim of disease, and it loves being the victim of cancer, and it loves being the victim of the medical system, and it loves being the victim of all the things. It wants to try and convince you that you don't have any power. This live is probably going to trigger the fuck out of a lot of people. And there is definitely a big pharma push on ADHD at the moment. Yes, there's some new drugs coming, and they're coming for the adult because the kids are already dosed to the eyeballs and we're losing out on money. And I guarantee you that probably in about 2 years' time, dogs will be diagnosed with ADHD, because dogs are now being diagnosed with depression and anxiety at really high rates, and they're on meds for it. Dogs are on fucking meds for anxiety. We have reached peak cuckoo fucking la la. Mr. Cookson, why are you on here? We have reached peak cuckoo la la, but I reckon they'll go one better. And they love giving all of your animals. They know you love your animals. There's a big thing at the moment I'm seeing about all these supplements for dogs, giving dogs all these things that dogs should not have in supplements. Your dogs don't need supplements. They need decent food. You give your dogs kibble and you give your dog shit out of a can, and then you go and buy them supplements, right? There's just no different really to each one of us, like eating shit and then having the supplement. It's the same madness. But they know how much we love our pets. And so there will probably be, in 2 years' time, your dog will probably have ADHD and need to be on meds. 10 years ago, it was near impossible to get diagnosed with this as adults. Now it's everywhere. Yeah, because, the drugs weren't around. So there was no point. You thought you're an empath, Haruka. You are an empath. I guarantee you we're all empaths. We are all empaths. That to be human is to be an empath. Because what is an empath? An empath is somebody that feels deeply for the other, that can feel their emotions and can literally feel. You can literally sit next to somebody and feel. When we're in each other's fields, or when we connect, when we're very connected, if it's a friend, if it's a family member, most of us can be empathetic enough, connected enough to actually feel what they're feeling, to be telepathic. We are empaths. That is the normal human condition. When we have not forgotten who we are, when we're not so disconnected, when we are connected to source and we are all connected through that, we are all empaths. And at the same time, we can all be on a scale of being narcissistic, because narcissistic is just a label. It's just the latest trendy label. We could say that, I mean, what is the defining, you could have narcissist anywhere from somebody who, now starts to tell somebody that they no longer want to do that for them, or that what about me, or says, no, my experience of that was not what you're saying, and you can be labelled a narcissist anywhere down to, obviously like a psychopath. Narcissist is a psychological term that certainly applies to a group of people what it was intended for, but it kind of got hijacked by a group of people who were like, you know what, I want to call you that so that it's really clear cut that I'm the good guy in this situation. So I'm not saying that people aren't assholes and that people aren't, selfish but people are in their trauma, people are in their fear, people are in their pain, people are in their ego. When people are in their ego and have no understanding of the bigger picture, when someone can't hold space for you, there's millions and millions and millions of people who have had children. They are our parents. They are our parents' parents. They are all over the world. They have no ability to be any kind of emotional support, to hold space, to hear you, to regard you, to respect you. This is where we are as the human when we've gone so far away from who we are. And we're functioning so much in our ego that it's just all about fear and wanting to be comfortable and not wanting to be, not wanting to be rejected. You act in a certain way that you can certainly put that label of narcissist on it. But it's become this thing of just being really clear cut, It's become this thing where it's become a get out of jail free card. Where if I call someone else a narcissist, if I can call you a narcissist before you call me one, then that immediately it gives information to other people where they will then go, oh. And the only reason most people are using that term is because it kind of makes it clear cut. Kind of makes it's holding this validity that I don't feel like it should hold. It's a complex issue. I'm sure you are an empath, Erika, and we all are. And we're remembering it more and more. And that's why we're feeling more deeply, and that's why we're becoming more connected, and that's why that kind of needs to be put a stop to, because it's the catalyst. Literally just sitting here saying yes, brilliant. That's why I refused a blood transfusion in 2018. I can't tell you why I didn't want it. It just didn't sit right, and I couldn't do it. No matter what, maybe trust your internal self. Yes, matter what. Yeah, brilliant. And what an important and powerful lead into 2020. There is no better guide to you than you, even if you don't know the information, right? Let's say I used a builder before. I used the example of a builder. Let's say I want to do some renovations on my house. And so I have somebody come to my house and I'm like, I don't really know what I want. So first I'm like that. If I send anything to like a graphic designer or any kind of website stuff, I'm a really decisive person. You give me two things, I'll go that one. Yep, that one, right? That's how I shop. That with that, cool, let's go. But when it's an area that I don't really know, I need a starting point. So I might say, okay, I don't know what I want to do with this area. Show me some ideas. And then once you show me, then I know, okay, I don't like that. I like that. I like that, but I want a bit of that. I want that, but not there. I want it over here. And that's really how we need to approach healthcare. We need to go in and go, okay, I don't know what is right for me at this point in time. Give me my options and then I will know. Share with me your knowledge, share with me your understanding, your experience, share with me what you feel is available to me, and then I'll go from there. And then you feel in, okay, you don't have to walk around going, oh my God, I have to know all my own healthcare. I have to know exactly what to do. No, you can go and you can be like supported by people, and you can be guided by people, and you can, you can have their expertise. Great, brilliant that they're there, but you decide. I decide what this means, and I decide what I need. Hey Joel, example, most of serotonin produced in gut, but often told there's a chemical imbalance in brain and need. Yeah. So the thing with doctors is most of them are busy. And okay, so recently I took our pooch to the vet, something I very, 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 very rarely do. So the last time we went, I think, was around about 6 years ago. But there was something that like she was doing, and I was a bit worried about it, and I wasn't sure. And because she's older, and because she's being minded by my mum next week, I just wanted it checked. I wanted that that person who has more insight and more knowledge to go, okay, what do you think of this? And then they tell me, and then I decide where we go from there. So I take it to the vet, and it's a vet that we haven't been to before, who was recommended by somebody. But you know what? Look, lovely lady, nothing wrong with her in terms of her human, but very medical. So I said, look, she does have pain. She has some arthritis in her back legs. I give her CBD oil. At the moment, she gets turmeric, and I can't think of what it's called. What's it called when you do, when you do the turmeric with the coconut oil? Golden paste. At the moment, she's on golden paste. And when I say at the moment she's having turmeric, she kind of rolls her eyes like as though I'd said, at the moment we're slapping a fish over her head 3 to 4 times a day, like to help with that pain. So I thought, okay, you're not my person, but I'm here now and I need your take on this right now. So I said, also, no heroic, she's 14. I just want you to listen to her heart and her lungs and let me know what you think. So she says, there's this really great new medication for arthritis in dogs, and it's natural. And I was like, it's natural, is it? It's natural. Okay, that's cool. It's great. It's natural. So she gives me a pamphlet. She goes, here, you can read about it. I go, okay. I already know I'm not going to give her that. And she says, and I can order CBD oil for you here. I'm like, okay, that's the way we're going to go. I'm happy to do that. Yep. And I already know I'm not going to order this, but I go home and I look at it, and the pamphlet is from the pharmaceutical company. So she's handing me directly the information from the pharmaceutical company. Nowhere on this does it say what the active ingredient of this injection is. Nowhere on it. So then I do a Google search, and the first 2 pages, there's nothing other than vets talking about the fact they now offer it. So it's the latest thing. It's the latest thing. They will have gone around and gone, there's this great thing. And people just saying, yeah, my dog's now on it. On the 3rd page of the Google search, I finally find a section that says, this is a study on, this is kind of like a report on the 2 studies. So this drug has had 2 studies done on it. It said both of them had a very small sample group, not enough to say that it's actually effective, and also not enough to say what the side effects would be. Again, no mention of the active ingredient, so I still don't know what it is. And on one of the studies, the only way they basically decided that it was effective in reducing pain relief was that the owners recorded that the dogs were in less pain. So the dogs didn't actually come back to the vet clinic or the people doing the study. And this is the problem. The actual vets, the actual doctors do not look at the research. They get told, this is what the research shows, this is what the studies show. They themselves don't have time to be looking up everything they're giving to somebody. And secondly, most of them actually aren't very good. They wouldn't really know how to read statistics. So they're just reading the conclusion, and the conclusion, of course, from the company that makes the drug. So basically, it'd be like me, doing something and then saying, this is a really good product. I've done my own study and here's, the results of this. It's a really good product. And this is the problem. This is the problem. And so with things like chemical imbalance in the brain being the reason for depression and all that sort of thing, we've known for a long time that's not the case, but it'll take a really long time for that to actually filter through to medicine, because the pharmaceutical companies do not want you to know that. It's going to interfere with all of the drugs they've been giving you for such a long time, all of the things that people are now hooked on and addicted to for their anxiety and for their depression, that have never actually worked in the first place. The loophole with chemo is, yes, it kills cancer cells, but it also kills every other cell. Then you actually die from your other, people die from chemo. Do people die from cancer? I don't know, because we kill them with chemo so quickly, we won't know. Watch the documentary An Inconvenient Truth. It's about a cancer doctor knowing that chemo kills you and how to actually treat the cancer with no drugs at all. Yeah. And what even is cancer? Like I was saying with the fever before. Fever is your body saying, my immune system's working really well and doing its thing. But we get taught to suppress it. What is cancer? Most likely the body doing its thing, right? But we suppress it. Leave the dogs out of it. Yeah, leave the dogs out of it. Absolutely. Yes, that is her. That is her. She's awake now. She'll be wanting my attention in a minute. She'll be wanting her, she has usually some bones at this point in time, or some peanut butter on a banana. So she will, at the moment I'm patting her, so she's calm, but that's probably only going to last so long. So look, I probably should leave it there, because if it's too long, all of the people with ADHD will go, I can't watch this live. But it's kind of in two sections. So there's the first part that, go back and listen to it, about my own experience with this kind of what feels like a full circle shift, and an example that I'm sharing with you of when you say, I decide what this means, it's really powerful. It still had to play out its part though, and it's still not fully gone. But that's okay, because remember, you can be in your power within it. You don't need the thing to be different. You don't need it to be fully gone to be in your power. Okay, you can be in your real power. And just how much we set the tone, how much I had then found the right doctor, and how we can become unbound, right? We're in the process of becoming unbound right now. So, all right, great to see you all. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for being here. Let me know. If you go back to the start and you watch and you have, any comments or whatever, just put them on the replay. And, if you haven't watched this week's book club, so any of the book club videos you can watch on their own. You don't have to be reading the book. You don't have to be doing the book club. The link will be in the stories, and just head there. And let's all just keep becoming unbound, because that is where our freedom lies. That's how we get out of the matrix. You're welcome, Amelia. All right. Lovely to see you all. Much love.